You've been told your whole life to save your money, to watch it grow, to protect its value for the future. But while you're trying to make your dollar go further, the most powerful governments on earth are doing the exact opposite. They are locked in a silent, cutthroat race to the bottom, desperately fighting to make their own currency worth as little as possible. It sounds like economic suicide. It sounds like madness. But for the elite pulling the strings in Washington, Beijing, and Tokyo, it's not a mistake. It's the ultimate survival strategy. Most people think a strong currency is a sign of a strong country. In reality, a strong currency can be a death sentence for an economy. Every day, trillions of dollars flow through the foreign exchange markets. And right now, a secret war is being waged. A war where the winner is the one who can destroy their purchasing power the fastest. But here's the part they don't tell you. Your savings are the collateral damage. To understand why a superpower would want to sabotage its own wealth, we have to look back to when money actually represented something tangible. For decades, the world operated on the gold standard. A dollar wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a receipt for a specific amount of gold sitting in a vault. This created stability. It created trust. But for a growing empire with massive ambitions, stability is a cage. In 1971, President Richard Nixon did the unthinkable. He closed the gold window, effectively severing the link between the dollar and anything physical. Suddenly, money became an idea, a fiat, and ideas, they can be manipulated. This shift turned the global economy into a giant game of poker where everyone is trying to bluff their way to the bottom of the deck. Now this changes everything because once money is untethered, its value is determined solely by how much of it exists and how much people want it. And that brings us to the first major hook of this war, the export trap.
Yes, if the Chinese yuan is strong compared to US dollar, your phones become more expensive for Americans to buy.
If the yuan gets too strong, Americans stop buying your phones and start buying them from Vietnam or India instead. So what does the Chinese government do? They intentionally devalue the yuan.
They print more of it, they sell it on the open market, and they keep its value artificially low. This makes Chinese goods the cheapest on the planet. They steal the market share, they keep their factories humming, and they keep their population employed. But here is where it gets worse. When one country devalues, they aren't just helping themselves, they are actively hurting everyone else. This is known as beggar thy neighbor economics. If China makes its currency cheap, the United States loses its manufacturing edge. American factories close, jobs vanish. So what does the US do in response? They can't just sit there. They strike back. They lower interest rates. They engage in quantitative easing, a fancy term for printing trillions of new dollars out of thin air. They devalue right back. It's a global game of chicken, where the goal is to have the trashiest currency in the room. You might think this is just a trade dispute between giants, but this escalation has a much darker, more personal consequence for you. Because this race to the bottom isn't just about selling more plastic toys or electronics. It's about the one thing no government wants to talk about: debt. This is the part nobody talks about. The United States is currently drowning in over $34 trillion of debt. It is a number so large, it has become abstract. It can never, ever be paid back with expensive money. If the government had to pay that debt back using the high-value dollars of the 1950s, the country would be bankrupt in a week. But there is a loophole that involves you. If the government can make the dollar worth 50% less over the next decade through controlled inflation, that $34 trillion of debt effectively shrinks by half in real terms. They are paying back their creditors with junk money. This is the silent theft. The government doesn't have to raise your taxes if they can just make the money in your pocket worth less. Inflation is a hidden tax that requires no legislation and no vote. It is the perfect crime. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. We've entered an era where this strategy is starting to backfire. For decades, the US dollar has been the world's reserve currency. Everyone needed dollars to buy oil, gold, and international goods. This gave the US a superpower privilege. They could print money, and the rest of the world would soak it up. But the world is getting tired of being the dumping ground for devalued dollars. We are seeing the rise of the BRICS nations: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. They are actively working to build a new financial system, one that doesn't rely on a currency that is being intentionally destroyed by its own creators. This is no longer just an economic theory. It is a geopolitical earthquake. Central banks around the world are currently buying gold at the fastest rate since the 1960s. Why? Because they know the race to the bottom has a finish line. And that finish line is the total collapse of purchasing power for fiat currencies. Now, this changes everything. If the dollar loses its status because it's been devalued too much, the US can no longer export its inflation to the rest of the world. All those trillions of dollars overseas will come flooding back home, causing prices to skyrocket in a way we've never seen. We are approaching a moment of reckoning. Governments are trapped. If they stop devaluing, their economies stall and they can't pay their debts. If they continue to devalue, they risk a total loss of confidence and the end of their global influence. It is a trap of their own making. And while they play this high-stakes game of shadow finance, the middle class is being hollowed out. Your house might be worth more in dollars, but does it buy you a better life? Or does it just take more of those devalued dollars to maintain the same standard of living? The race to the bottom is not a race anyone truly wins. It is a race to see who can lose the least. Governments will continue to tell you that a little inflation is good and that competitive exchange rates are necessary. But now, you know the truth. They want their money to be worthless because it's the only way they can stay in power. They are burning the furniture to keep the house warm, and eventually, there will be nothing left to burn. So the next time you look at a $20 bill, don't just see a piece of paper. See it for what it really is, a ticking clock. Because in the race to the bottom, the finish line is closer than you think. And when the money finally hits zero, the only thing that will matter is what you held onto that wasn't made of paper. The war is already happening. The only question is, are you an investor or are you the exit liquidity?